So I'm going to speak about a few important contracts that anyone must know how to draft, and we'll not limit to just 5. One type of contract which is very important is a co-founders agreement. A co-founders agreement is executed when different people come together to start a new business. And the reason I'm saying this is a very important agreement is that you will get a lot of people who want to come together and start a new business, and this is a very easy or very frequently occurring kind of client to capture. And one of the other reasons is that this is your inroad to getting new clients. And if you can actually learn how to draft this and you do this successfully, that means that if the business grows, that person is going to remember you and he's going to come to you for more services. So in that way, this is an inroad you get into a new segment. And once you learn this, you will learn some related agreements, and I'll bucket them together like an LLP agreement, a partnership agreement, and articles of association and memorandum of association of a company. Let's just call this as one big set of agreements that you should know. And partnership agreements are less commonly executed now because people prefer creating an LLP or a company, or when the venture is unincorporated and it's just too early days, then there's a co-founders agreement. Now, this is one set. Let's move to something else. Another set of agreements you should know is how to draft rent agreements or leave and license agreements. This is helpful because it's a very commonly executed agreement, and no matter how simple you think this could be, people need assistance with this from time to time. And these are of various kinds. There could be a commercial lease, there could be a leave and license for private individuals, there could be a company guest house, various varieties of this. And what you will need to keep in mind is how to stay out of tenancy related requirements, because otherwise the landlord will not have enough freedom to terminate the agreement or to increase the rent or to evict his tenants. Then you will also have to look at how not to be within the requirements of stamping or registration in certain cases. Why am I telling you this? Because in addition to learning how to draft the agreement, you will have to be able to learn how certain aspects like stamping and other statutory regulations get attracted, so that you can do the end-to-end work. Because when the client comes to you, you will not just be drafting certain clauses, you will also be telling him that you do this, then your agreement is completely executed. So that includes providing the advice on registration and stamping. And this comes up for rent agreements the most. Okay. Then a third category of agreement is an employment agreement. This again is a very regular agreement that you will be asked to draft. And employment agreement can be for various categories of employees. One of the important categories is for a senior level executive. You will find that there are many people who've been doing corporate jobs and who are then invited by somebody who is starting a business to head a new business that is started by that person, and they are engaged as CXOs. And that's the time when you have to create a watertight employment agreement for protecting the interest of your client, whether it's the person who's starting the new business or whether it's the new senior level employee whose interest needs to be protected. With this comes the requirement to actually draft an ESOP plan. So employment agreement becomes even more valuable. That skill becomes even more valuable if you can also assist with an ESOP plan. And another related agreement I will let you know is an advisor's agreement. A lot of times there are advisors who agree to provide some inputs, insights, or give their time on a regular basis with a company in exchange for equity. So you should know how to draft this kind of an agreement. And another agreement of the same category is a consultancy agreement. People who start a new business regularly engage consultants to provide different kinds of specialized services. These are not employees, but they are providing other kinds of services to them based on their specialized area of expertise. Somebody could be a marketing consultant, another could be a PR consultant, and so on. So this is the other category, which is employment agreement, ESOP plan, advisor agreement, and consultancy agreement. Another set now is a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement. This is one of the easiest agreements to draft, but yet law students don't come across this even when they study subjects like the Contract Act. And there are some variations to an NDA, but you can quickly learn this and you can then draft it. So this is another agreement that you should know how to draft. So we've covered 4 sets. Let's look at another. Another agreement is a license agreement. So from time to time, there will be intellectual property, whether in the nature of trademarks or copyright, which is licensed by one entity to another. In the media and entertainment sector, where this is about movies or songs or music, then there is a content license related aspect to it, or primarily copyright related license. In other industries where, let's say, a franchisee is being opened for a global brand in India, there what is happening is there's a trademark license along with license of some know-how. So license agreements and franchising agreements is another set of agreements that you should know. Now, if you know all these kinds of agreements, including the statutory aspect of them, the statutory aspect again is not something that you will be studying in law school, because you will be primarily focusing on the section of the act and the case law, but there are related statutes that get into it. There are some form filings which come into the picture. So you have to understand that whole picture before you can do this end to end. But if you can do this end to end for these categories of agreements, trust me, you will be placed far ahead of an average law graduate as well. And this is actually one big advantage you can have if you want to work on a freelance basis. Suppose you don't want to work in a law firm and you want to start your own practice and you want to do some freelance work on the side. You don't want to necessarily go to court. So then these are the agreements you should learn how to draft and execute end to end for both sets of clients, so that you are in a good place.
Another question which is asked by a lot of students who practice contract drafting skills is that where do you get your first contract drafting assignment when you are a fresh graduate or somebody who has just learned the skills of contract drafting?
So your first assignment will obviously not come from a big MNC, because they will have their relationships with existing law firms and existing lawyers. Your first assignment will come from somebody who knows you personally, or who has no access to other lawyers or no capacity to pay other lawyers better. So then look at such categories of people, especially people who cannot access a lawyer or those you trust. So in your network, you may have people who've started new ventures, or you could even, now, how do you establish this kind of trust? One way people quickly establish trust is by taking free speaking sessions at various kinds of entrepreneurship events and other kinds of gatherings. There are many co-working spaces today in India, in almost every city. And in each of these co-working spaces, they keep organizing on the weekends or on the evenings. They organize special talks just to benefit the entire community. Now, you can approach one of these spaces and say that, I will take a talk on this topic today. So like this, you can actually take you can organize a couple of sessions every twice a month, for example. So you can take 2 sessions per month and keep doing this. People over time will develop a high amount of trust for you. So anytime they're stuck with legal needs, they'll come to you. You might find out that, a lot of times they just come for advice and you can charge them for that. So it will not just be contract drafting work that comes your way, but a lot of other work also, which is a great thing, right?